There's the grid then for Bathurst. Very, very short run down to T1. You can see the field spread's not a lot. There's 14 cars here and there's not a lot of space between us all, so it's going to be very close going up the mountain. Revs-wise, the two FF cars get a terrible start. We will just go and replay that from my perspective because you'll kind of get what I mean. This is my view. Able to, the door gets shut on James there, able to scoot past the FFs off the start, but they will be, well you'll see. So Mutt 36 then in second with James Harben third, Terence up to fourth then, but he is getting chased down by Haz 91 in the VW. That should be a relatively easy pass for the VW, even without slipstream. Will easily outpace the Mercedes in a straight line. Terence looks like he's also coming under pressure from ESL Idol. He's too busy fighting with Sir Forever. He goes a little bit wide in the Aston Martin. That's going to let Ice Chan through. It does. That's the Lemon and Line team working together. Tricky Tree's trying to pick a way through that as well. With Phil in the Viper Sniper team, Fat Picklesbro in the Porsche in 11th, Marshall in the Toyota in 12th, Infinity Decals 13th, and Sea Trickle has not had a good start to the race. He did ask me to not look at him too much, but that usually only makes me look at you more. Yeah, just easily done there because the back end just goes light coming up that hill. So coming round the top of the mountain for the first time of asking, then it is Mutt 36 just ahead of myself in the Mercedes. The McLaren of James Harben in third, but he's got Haz 91 with the power wipers. These guys running a special V8 supercars inspired livery for today. Given the pace that these guys had, we did actually suspect whether they actually just transferred a V8 engine into the car and got away with it somehow, but I think it has seemingly passed scrutineering. Terence looks to be just out of the slipstream of us like then, so he might start coming under pressure from the Jag and the Astons behind. Those cars are very, very good in a straight line. The Mercedes isn't as capable in a straight line as the Jags and the Astons, and of course the VWs, as myself giving that position up to James Harben there, but James ran it a little bit wide. That's going to give me the opportunity to probably drift past. We've got Haz 91 also looking as well. Haz 91 actually picks up a little bit of a penalty there, and I have to take to the curb to stop myself from hitting James, and it looks like any moment now Haz 91 is going to be lining up a move on me. I send him around the outside, but we have got a straight coming up, and I'm just going to be a sitting duck in the straight. He's just going to walk straight past me. I do my teammate for a little bit of backup, but bump drafting's not allowed, so he's not going to be doing any of that, and he pulls out the slipstream, and instead it is not going to fight me going into this corner. So the VW's then starting to make their way through. Mutt 36 escaping up the road, he's just scarpering off. James Harben doing a grand job in the McLaren. The McLaren quite well suited to this track. It's light and it's nimble. The VWs are a bit more of a barge, but they're just a tower of power, these cars. The Mercedes not a bad car, but they're quite nicely planted, they're quite easy to drive, but they're certainly not the fastest car around here. Yes, our Adler then in the Jag. He's keeping the Astons at base, so it's the Battle of Britain going on here. Oh, but he does go a little bit deep there at Skyline, and just about keeps it out of the wall, but that lets Ice Chan through. Surfman not able to capitalise on that one. Tricky Tree just a little too far back as well, and then pretty much normal surfaces. We've got the two Porsches here at 11th and 12th. Got a feeling as Fat Pickles was actually out on the medium. He's just getting his slow stint out of the way. We've got Marshall out on the mediums as well as Sea Trickle. I think everyone else is doing the early stint on softs. They are, yeah. So it's only Fat Pickles Bro and the two Toyotas that are daring to use the medium tyres this early on. The rest of us are just waiting to see what the future holds, I guess. So Haz has got to start chasing down James Harben now. I just need to try and keep with these guys, really. I mean, the problem is the VW just buggers off in a straight line. So very hard to keep his slipstream. He's now trying to get hold of James Harben. I'm just out of the toe here. Idle after that incident last lap. Now starting to come under fire from Surf Rev and the Aston Martin. The Aston are very well suited cars. This track seemingly going really well here in 6th and 8th. Idler's going to send him to the outside. No room at the end this time round for the Aston Martin. And he's going to just have to wait his turn, I think. Very hard to make an overtake once you hit this part of the track. There's room on the track, it's wide enough, but the line's really only single file. Because of the walls, you are courting death if you try and go past here. So most of the overtakes would have been done during the other half of the circuit. The two VWs are now 1st and 2nd, and they will just start to waltz away, I feel. James just wants to try and stick with these guys as much as possible. He's still searching for his first podium. He picks up a little bit of a penalty there. These were happening, I went back and looked at the replay after the race, and it's the white line on the dipper basically where you get them. There were some other penalty issues in the race that weren't quite as explainable, but that one, myself and James both fell victim to that at some point during the race. They were pretty legit penalties. I didn't think so at the time, but look back and yeah, they were. So Ice Champ going very well. Catching right up to me and Terry now. ESR Idle has maintained his P7 spot ahead of Surf Rev, but kicks up a little bit of dust in Surfer's face. I was doing that to James all the time. A little bit of someone's car just falling off there. Trick-or-treating the sister McLaren. I'm pretty confident he didn't do much practice. Phil is in the pits. Very early pit stop, pitting on lap 3 for Phil. I'm not too sure why, because he's on the soft tyre, so yeah, I'm not sure why he's doing that, but there we go. So Mutt has just set a 2:11.8 as a fastest lap. For reference, the rest of us are in the 13s. We were fuel saving. Low 12s were probably doable in the Merc without fuel saving, but with fuel saving you're in the mid 13s because you're doing a bit of tyre management as well. And that's seemingly what most people are opting to do early in the stint. So until we've sort of figured out what's what and who lies where, most drivers are just trying to conserve fuel, they're trying to conserve tyres, just give themselves more options really as they go through the race by just keeping that keeping those options open. Phil now don't really know what he's done. Has he put some fresh softs on? I think he's just put some fresh tyres on because he's not really got much more fuel on board. So yeah, he's pitted, put maybe a bit of fuel, but I doubt it, and just changed his tyres. Back out in 12th, ahead of the Porsche of Infinity Decals Dave and C Trickle, who's still out on his mediums. I'm not sure if he'll be looking to get rid of those soon. Marshall in the other Toyota, also out on mediums, could be a little bit of a sitting duck here then to the Viper and the Porsche. The Viper might opt to just walk past him here, he does indeed. So easily doing a few miles an hour faster than the Toyota. Then the Toyota also loses out to Infinity Decals. And that's 2 places dropped in the space of 1 straight for the Toyota there. We have got Ice Chan now looking all over the back of Terry. I'm not sure whether he's going to try a move. He's not quite close enough just yet. A little bit further up, Mutt 36 at this point in the race, lap 5, so less than 10 minutes in. He's already got a 4-second lead over the sister VW Has 91. James Harben just choosing to get rid of his penalty now, so that's obviously served in time. The rule with penalties, if you pick one up, you have to serve it within 2 laps of picking it up. Yeah. So James obviously getting rid of that one nice and early. As for myself, I can speak for myself in this one. My game plan at this point is just save as much fuel as I can, whilst not dropping the pace too much. So for me, as long as I'm doing laps in the 13s, I'm relatively happy. That last one was a 12.9, so a little bit quicker than I actually wanted to be going at this stage. James did a 12.8 that lap, so he went pretty swift as well. Matched the VW's pace ahead, but with a 12.2. Not doing too bad on his fuel either. We will obviously review the fuel when we get round to the pit stop. So again, the pit stop strategies for everyone's probably going to be a little bit different. Ice Chand then. What's happened to Ice Chand? He was running quite high up. Let's go back and have a look. So jumped on board Ice Chand then, running 6th behind Terence, with ESR Idle tucked up behind him. And it's just as we're about to enter McKinney Park. Just gets a swap on there. He's going to go into the gravel. He manages to save it, but that costs him quite a bit of time. He gets on the brakes as well to let his teammate through. And unfortunately for that, for Ice Chan, then he was running really well, doing some really good lap times. And that's dropped him down a couple of positions. It's good news for ESR Idle then, who in the Jag can get chasing Terry. Mercedes. The Jag will have the upper hand on the Mercedes coming down this straight, so should start to drag it in. Tricky tree in the system. McLaren also doing nice lap times. Has got Fat Pickles behind him, but Pickles on the medium tyre, I wouldn't imagine it's going to be a huge threat to the McLaren. Phil, after pitting very early, out again, and the 2 Toyotas now occupy the last 2 spots on the grids. Now things have started to sort themselves out. Starting lap 6 then, past the 10-minute mark. Mutt is firmly leading the way. Starting to see a little bit more spread then in the top 4. We've each got little gaps between us. No one's really giving anyone else slipstream, so now it's just a strategy race between us guys. A little bit more going on here though between Terence, Idle, Surfer and Ice Chan. So these 4, this could start to spice up a little bit, because very different capabilities between all the cars. You see how much ESR Idle's closed up there on Terence. It was 4 tenths quicker that last lap than the Mercedes. The Jag just has the power. The Mercedes is quite capable on the hill, it can hold its own. The Jag will probably struggle to get past around here, but once we get onto the main straight, that should be a relatively easy pass for Idle in the Jag. Is he biding his time? He's just waiting there. There's not really the room down here unless a mistake is made. We'll just stick with this backwards view going down the dipper. Terry carries more speed in there, but Idle can be a tad later on the brakes, carries a little bit more down the actual dipper itself, down the S's, and then down towards Forest Elbow. This is where you need to make sure your exit is perfect, nice and tight up against the wall there for Terry. Gets on the power nice and early. It's about as good of an exit as you could possibly get, but the Jag's still going to reel you in. On board with ESR Idle now. He's not looking like he's going to get close enough here to make a move, but he's certainly gaining time on the Mercedes. See how close he got there, but not close enough for a move. The 2 Astons then just kind of working together at the minute in 7th and 8th. Not really giving each other any headaches. We've got ESR Idle then jumping into the pits. An early pit stop for ESR Idle at the 13-minute mark. So he's going to go in. Maybe he'll take softs again, maybe he'll go to mediums. So in terms of strategy, the only real issue here is you've got to run 2 sets of tyres, so you've got to run the soft and the medium. You have to run the medium tyre for at least 3 laps, so at the bare minimum an out lap, a timed lap and then an in lap at the bare minimum. But you can run softs throughout the rest of it, and there's no other real rules other than that. So the top 4 nice and spaced out. Oh, Terry makes a little bit of an error there. That's going to let Ice Chan through. Sorry, not Ice Chan, Surfer. Let's just jump on board a Surfer and have a look at that. Yeah, Terry just goes deep. Nice easy pass for Surfer in the end, that. So that does demote Terry down to 6th place. We're starting to approach the stage where a lot of cars will start to think about pitting now. You might be able to see the fuel graphic on the bottom of the screen there, indicating most drivers that haven't yet pitted are on around quarter of a tank, so Mutt's just over quarter of a tank, has that in one a little bit less. James Harbin pretty much bang on quarter of a tank. I've done a decent job of fuel saving, to be fair, so I'm not far off half a tank here. So I can keep going, and I intend to do just that. Surfer, who's now ahead of Terry. I shouldn't imagine, even though Terry's pretty close, I shouldn't imagine Surfer will have a major issue with the Mercedes down here, unless he's manically fuel saving and Terry isn't. Yeah, he might. I think Surfer's short shifting a little bit. Obviously he's in 6th now, so he won't be. Nice move there by Terry. Up the insides, adds to the chase, but goes very deep. Good awareness by Surfer just to, at the last minute, dip to the inside, just to take that position back. So good racecraft there by Surfer to basically just make the switchback move happen. Still got good pace on my softs, so yeah, no plans to pit just yet. I think my plan was pit at the end of lap 10, I think it was. We'll see how that works out for me. So these guys are pretty close again. Obviously ESR idle a little bit further down now after his pit stop, but the race might well come to him yet. Is Terry going to go for it? He does. Mercedes goes for it, but goes, oh no, he slaps the wall. That's going to lose Terry a position. Let's go on his roof cam actually. So that's just for reference, that's how far Ice Chan is back, but he's got really good drive up here. Dips out at the last minute, but yeah, just a little bit late on the brakes. Surfer, good job Surfer's aware to it. But that does allow Ice Chan up to 6th place. So yeah, another position gained for the Aston party. That has put Terry in the clutches of Tricky Tree now as well. Tricky Tree and the McLaren might well struggle to get past through here. In fact, having to employ a little bit of patience. Yeah, nothing he can really do through there. Phil, after his multiple pit strategy, out in 9th now. Might well be staying out a little while. Monsieur Infinity Decals, 10th for him at the minute with ESR at 11th after his pit stop. Fat Pickles Bro's got rid of those mediums, got rid of them on lap 5 now, out on the softs. And starting to lap a little bit quicker, 12.8 last time out, so he's lapping at the same sort of pace as the leaders, just a little bit further back. And the Toyota's still out. Oh, see Trickle, sorry mate. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say the Toyota's still out on their mediums. Oh, and a massive accident there, terrifying the stewards, but the steward was alert enough to get the yellow flag straight out, so absolute gentleman sausage of steel, that steward there that he's got. Two VWs continuing their dominant performance, starting to feel the tyres a little bit now. but isn't affecting their pace too much. James Harbin's going to peel off into the pits. So in he goes with 12 litres of fuel. There you can see me there with that little bit of a penalty. I picked it up this lap. So I've got a little bit of time to get rid of that. So SurfRev now 4th, IceChan 5th, Terrence 6th, Phil up to 7th, ESR Idol 8th, Fat Pickles Bro 9th now, is he? No, there was a car coming out of the pits. I even think that whatever that car is will probably get out in front of Idol. It will, it's Tricky Tree. Idol might try and get round him. James Harbin also out now in 8th behind Phil. So James needs to negotiate this traffic pretty quickly. See ESR Idol and Tricky Tree having a little bit of a fight, and Idol gets that move made up the inside. Tricky Tree's got a penalty. This was one of the weird penalties we were talking about. So the pit entry at Bathurst was giving you penalties seemingly at random. I did have a little bit of a look at the replay, and other than a little bit more grass kick up from the cars that did get penalties, I couldn't really see much difference, so it was a bit odd. So that the order that you see now isn't necessarily the right one. The top 5, 6, the top 6 have not yet pitted as IceChan there gets round Terrence. Oh yeah, he absolutely slaps the wall there, does IceChan. Just stays ahead of the Mercedes. Yeah, the top 6 haven't pitted yet. I think it looks like Chand will pit this lap. I'll probably expect the VWs in soon. Whether they'll do it this lap or not, I'm not sure, but I would probably expect them to come in this lap. Looking at the time, we are about 20 minutes in, so end of lap 9 is probably about right for most pits. So Mutt also carrying a little bit of a penalty, but should be able to shake that off. In fact, shakes that off at the pit entrance. Has 91 also pitting, and I'm going to do the same. I get rid of my penalty here as well, just because it's easier. So Surfer carries on. Greta Thunberg will be impressed with his fuel saving efforts. He's going on for a 10th lap. I could have done a 10th lap. I was just sticking to my time. Whatever was closest to the 20 minutes I wanted to stick to, because I was starting to lose just a little bit of pace on those tyres. They were starting to feel a little bit second hand. I come out ahead of Mult on the basis that I don't put as much in, because I'm doing my slow medium stint now. So my plan is just to stay out for a couple of laps, whereas Mutt is just going for another soft stint, so he's put a bit more fuel in. So that's why he's there. Alright, once a lot more pit stops and stuff have planned their way out, we should see where this all lines up. So the early stopping Viper is starting to come under pressure a little bit from Has 91. Yes, our Idol 7th. Oh, he gets it all wrong there coming down the hill. Fat Pickles were able to get past, so is Terrence. Tricky Tree and Idol is now down to 11th. So bad mistake down the mountain. IceChan trying to put the pressure on Terrence then to get that 9th place off the Mercedes. Similar strategies for these guys. They're both running medium stints. We have Has 91 now making his way past the Viper. It's going to put him up to 5th on the road with a lot of cars ahead of him to overtake. SurfRev then does picks up a penalty. Let's go back and have a look at this. So what's this penalty for? He picked that up on the pit entry. So my guess is going all 4 wheels off there, but couldn't really give you too much of an answer. It just seems a bit of a weird penalty to get. So that's going to give the lead of the race back to Mutt. The jury's out as to whether I'll get out ahead of Surfer. I should do, because I'd imagine Surfer will probably he'll either short fuel and go on mediums or long fuel on softs. We'll see where he comes out. Still not out of the pits. Yeah, he's going long on his softs again. Comes out side by side with Terence. Mercedes able, I think, just to stay ahead of Surfer. Then that's bad news for Surfer though, because he is on his he's on his soft compound tyre and Terry's on the medium. In fact, Chand up ahead's on the medium as well. So this is bad news for Surfer. He did not need to come out behind any of these cars. And I see that 2-second penalty that Surfer's got. He was in chat. He was telling us about this. Because we at the time believed that to be a penalty earned by mistake, i.e. the game just being the game. He's not under obligation to serve that within the 2-lap rule. So you may see him carrying that, and I only mention that as we've mentioned other people carrying penalties. James Harbin's just got a little bit of his to get rid of, so Chucky Tree's just got a little bit of his to get rid of. Pickles now just trying to go fast in that Porsche. He's definitely got the pace to be there. Has that one with another penalty. 2.5 to his name. James is now on me now. I knew he was on softs in a sense, just there's no point holding him up. Us two fighting would only slow us both down, so it just made sense to let him go there. I can then tuck into his slipstream a little bit and use the McLaren speed to help me out overall. I'm going to be pitting soon as well. I think I'm end of next lap, I think I pit. So that's how the top guys are working out so far. The strategy's all mixed up. So indeed it's all over the show at the minute. Has91's got rid of a little bit of that penalty. He's now attacking me. The VW just like I said earlier, it's a tower of power. It's going to be very hard to keep that car behind at all. Terry was looking up the inside of Surfer Rev there. Is Terry going to be able to do anything about this? So Surfer has got past Terry. Obviously he was behind him earlier on. But on his soft tyres I'd sort of expect that. I'd expect him to roll up to the back of Ice Chand as well, just purely based on the tyre advantage. Fresh softs are nice and grippy. So Has91 now behind me coming down the mountain. No room at the end here, but it'll be an easy pass for the VW coming down Conrod Straight. I will not struggle. Car that did just Ice Chand got the back end a little bit out there. Surfer will be potentially able to make a move on his teammate. Looking back then from my car at Has91's. Don't get close enough here. But he will walk past on the next straight. So I'm completing my timed lap on mediums. So I've got one more lap and I need to pit. So the swap between the Astons hasn't occurred yet. Ice Chand is leading the way, gets a bit of a swapper on this, going to give Surfer the opportunity potentially to roll up the inside. Has91 is up the inside of me. Nice and easy move for the VW that. He'll now get chasing on James Harben. Obviously Pickles there in 5th. Icechan 6th, Surfer in 7th. A little bit of a glitch in there from Icechan. Terry in 8th, Tricky Tree 9th. Phil in 10th. He's just pitted. Infinity Decals 11th with Marshall in 12th. And C Trickle 13th. He's just pitted as well. So he's now out on the softs for a full stint. About 20 odd minutes to go. Well, 22 if we're being pedantic. Looking about 10 laps. About 10 laps remaining, so we might start to see a lot of cars come in very soon, to be fair. And people like myself who are on the mediums, we will come in and get those mediums off, stick a set of softs on and potentially look to go to the end. Terry Icechan might look to do the same, looking at their tyres. They'll want to get back on those softs pretty quickly. Mutt 36, I'm not sure if he's took the mediums yet. I think he's yet to take them. I'm not sure. I can't remember seeing him on the mediums. But he'll stay out on these softs as long as he can really get away with. So will James Harben. He'll want to stay out of him here. Of course, has run the mediums. You see me, I've pitted now, so I'm going to come out. I'm going to take a full tank of gas, as the Yankee Doodles would say, and some soft tyres, and that'll then see me through to the end of the race. Surfer is now past Icechan. He can start to just run away a little bit now. He's got a while before he needs to pit. I don't think he can make it to the end. I'd be very, very, very surprised if he makes it to the end. But he'll be looking to extend probably until the 20th lap or so. Looking at his fuel, 3/4 of a tank or so, it's probably good enough for 6 or 7 laps in that car. Icechan will put soon, so will Terry. I'd imagine these two will just mirror each other's strategies, and then myself out. So I'm going to the end. So everyone ahead of me now that needs to pit, I should just be picking up positions from them. I'd imagine Tricky Tree, everyone else does need to pit again. Mainly for fuel for most people. The tyres weren't too bad here. So James is now starting to come under pressure from the VW of Has 91. So whether that move will happen anytime soon, I'm not too sure. Has still carrying a little bit of penalty. In fact, Pickles Bro probably pit soon for this man. Not sure whether he's took his mediums yet, but I'd imagine he will pit and he will go to the end. Surfer, as we know, is going long. Probably imagine Icechan and Terry, as I mentioned, will probably come in at this lap. And hopefully hand those positions over to me. We'll see what they choose to do though. They've got enough fuel to extend if they want to. So a couple more pit stops have happened and we'll run through the order in a moment. We're about to see Tricky Tree retire, has to retire the car, just pulls it over to the left. And the McLaren woes continue. As Tricky about takes out a cameraman and just does have to park the car. That's going to give 3 positions to Phil and Infinity Decals, as they are all bumped up a spot. Another retirement was ESR Idle, who had to retire the car as well, so the only Jag entry today has also had to pull out. So a bit of a recap then as we go into the closing stages of the race. Got about 16-17 minutes to go. Mutt 36 in the VW leads the way. A nice and easy race for the VW so far. James Harben, Rogue McLaren in P2. He's been fiercely chased down by Has 91 though. As he's looking like he's shaping up a move on that McLaren, and that probably will happen in the coming stages. SurfRev then, P4 for Surfer at the minute, just ahead of his teammate Icechand. I'd imagine Icechand is going to pit very shortly. Terry did a moment ago. Terry and Fat Pickles both pitted. That put me up to 6th. Is he not too far behind the 2 Aston Martins? Fat Pickles Bro then out in 7th. He was another one that picked up a pit entry penalty, where it randomly decided to give you 2.5 seconds for the minorest of minor track cuts. Terence then out in 8th, now going to the end of the race on a set of soft tyres. As we just said, Phil and Infinity Decals in 9th and 10th respectively, with Marshall and Sea Trickle in 11th and 12th respectively. I would expect Mutt needs to pit again, does he? Looking at the time, 15 minutes left, I'd say he needs to pit again. Probably still needs to take the mediums, so yeah, Has 91 carries on. So James Harden's going to pit. Now, the weird thing is, where's it going to bring James out? So Surfer will well go through, I think. Really? Where's James? Oh no, he's not. So James out in 3rd then. So he loses a place to Has 91, but in fact, looking at fuel levels, James, James is just coming out on his mediums, short stinting them. So James is just out for a little splash and dash on the medium tyres just to get rid of them. Surfer still got half a tank in that Aston Martin, still pumping in some decent lap times. He can continue to go. His tyres looking decent, Nick, as well, so I'd imagine he will carry on for another handful of laps. Then you got myself. Now I'm at this point where I've got sort of enough fuel left so that I can have 1 or 2 laps where I can just extend the revs a little bit. So I think this is about the point where I started doing that, where I just started to eke out a little bit more power from the Mercedes. It might be next lap actually when that happens, and just try and reduce the gap to SurfRev. I wasn't sure if he was pitting, and I wanted to try and put him under a little bit of pressure, and to do that I needed to get closer, so that's my strat for the time being. Also gives me a little bit of a barrier against this man, my championship rival in Fat Pickles Bro. He's an excellent driver. Those of you that have seen me commentate on these races before will know that he tends to win them. And coming into this, we were level on points. We'll obviously look at the end of the video where the results of this race bring us in terms of points, and who is going to be leading the championship going into the final race at Sardegna, which is next week. So about 15 minutes left then. 36 continues another lap in the lead, joined by his teammate in P2. James running 3rd, but I would expect him to come into the pit probably the end of lap 18, get rid of these mediums. At that point, Surfer might well take the lead, because I'd imagine Mutt and Has 91 will pit at the same sort of time James Harbin does. And then myself in 5th, so I've gained another position because of someone pitting. I think that was Icechand that pitted his. He's now out in 10th. Full tank of fuel on that car, nice set of racing soft tyres. He's now going to the end. And again for Icechand, he should pick up a couple of positions once cars ahead of him start to pit and lose position. So we rejoin the action. Just over 10 minutes to go, end of lap 18. Mutt leading the way, but he's about to come in for his final pit stop, so this will bring people a little bit closer again. Saying that Mutt had quite a considerable lead over everyone else. So he comes in the pits. Has 91 will probably equal that, yes he will. Shakes that penalty off in the pit entrance as well. Hopefully he don't pick another one up there. Should get away with that, to be fair. James Harbin also pits in the McLaren, so getting rid of those mediums. He's going to go on to softs. He'll have some really fresh tyres at the end as well, so James is definitely one to watch towards the end. SurfRev assumes the lead of the race, and Still a decent amount of fuel on that car. Definitely can't go to the end, I don't think, but he'll get close. Just going to need a splash and dash at the end. Maybe this is his strategy. Maybe he's going to pit potentially towards the end of this lap, next lap, and run the mediums. I'm not sure. Mutt 36 though comes out the pits well in the lead. He's got a lead over SimFx, who's yet to pit of 6.5 seconds. So SimFx needs to pit, just a little bit of a lead over Has 91. Has is on the medium tyres, of course, so he'll be a little bit slow, but still faster than me on my softs. So yeah, I'm out in 4th. I've got James Harbin behind me now. James is on fresh soft tyres in 5th place. Unfortunately for him, he's come out ahead of Fat Pickles, bro. It would have been a disaster had he come out behind Pickles. Fortunately for James, he's come out ahead of him. With the fresh tyres, can probably start now to pull a little bit of a gap. Terry in 7th. He's ahead of Phil in 8th. Some of these cars yet to pit again. Phil's one of them. Ice Chan now out in 9th. We know he's going to the end. Marshall 10th in with Infinity Decals in 11th. And C Trickle in 12th. Infinity Decals might well catch up to Marshall given the state of his tyres, because Marshall's tyres are a little bit more worn. Utter dominance from Mutt 36 though. Obviously the FFs don't ever get off to a great start, but once he got back past myself, he's pretty much led the entire race. Surfer then, enough fuel, those tyres look good. I think he'll just carry on for another lap. We should get 23 laps out of this, so it'd make more sense for him to pit at the end of the next lap if he's got to take the mediums on. Yep, stays out. We know Has is staying out of course, but he isn't dropping me as fast as he'd like. So 4th for myself at the minute, but I'm starting to see a little bit of tyre deg, although I'm still knocking in mid 212s. So as you can see, starting just to rev the car out a little bit more now. I'm confident I've got the fuel to make it to the end. So just starting to put the foot down a little bit. Also, added bonus, I've got James Harbin behind me, and didn't want that McLaren getting anywhere near me, because the McLaren was a very capable car in James's hands around this circuit. So yeah, Surfer out in 2nd now then. Yeah, I'd imagine he'll pit. He won't need to take much fuel on though, so his pit stop shouldn't be that long. Considering. So yeah, he'll pit. Where will he come out? He should come out around James and Fat Pickles Bro sort of area. He should do. We'll obviously see where that leaves him. But a bit of a splash and dash required for Surf Rev. So he's just having to fuel save a little bit now. There's time to short shift that car. And he's getting caught now by Has 91. But the VW's party piece is this, it just flies away in a straight line. The acceleration that car's got is pretty much second to none in Group 4-4. One of the better Group 4 cars out there. So we've still got 12 runners. We'll stick with this to the end. We've got about 5 minutes then until the end, so another 3 laps. Surf will pit in, so this will mix the order up a little bit. So Has 91 will take P2. I'll take P3. Yeah, Surfer just making it with 1% fuel. 1 litre. James Harbin will take 4th. Fat Pickles will take 5th. And we'll just see where Surfer comes out. He's still in his pit box. He's getting some motion lotion in the tank. Does he come out anywhere near Terry? He's out on his mediums then, yeah. So he's out behind Fat Pickles Bro doing his mediums. Well-timed strategy that by Surf Rev. He'll get around in time to do 3 laps and happy days, I should imagine. A bit more space down near the back. We've got Infinity Decals 11th, then still chasing down Marshall. The Toyota not doing too bad in this one at all. Definitely not the OP car. It's alright, but you've got to absolutely rag it to get any performance out of this thing. So it was a bit of a struggle. Sea Trickle especially was struggling in this one. Someone who wasn't struggling, what, 36 still. Let's have a look at these gaps now. 7 and a bit seconds to Haz 91. Haz, as you can see, is just ahead of me in the Mercedes. But just watch how much it pulls up. I get really close in the corners and then the VW just goes, just gone. So this is the bit where, I mean, he's gone so far I'm not getting the slipstream now. That's how much of a gap he's pulled. But yeah, this is the part of the track where a lot of overtakes are being done, and if you're not in the slipstream you're just not getting that aero assistance. Although arguably a little bit better than the VWs around the mountain, it's not enough. It's not enough to navigate the power they've got. And they have the flaws; they're not perfect, but at this track, they are certainly earning their money. So, it'll be a tall order for me to catch the VWs. James Harbour doing a grand job in 4th, just put his fastest lap of the race in a 12.0. So he is motoring now, and he was reducing the gap to me. It is worth pointing out. That lap for me is a 13.0, 12.0 that lap for James. I'm still having to fuel save a little bit. You can see the difference in fuel levels between me and James. So I'm having to save now. So back to short shifting. Just to make sure that I've got enough fuel to get round to the end. So Surfweb then out in 6th. Seems relatively safe from the cars behind. Questionable as to whether it can gain on Fat Pickles, though, given Fat Pickles is on the soft tyre. But Surfer should stay ahead of Terry, even though Terry's on the soft, so I think the gap might just be too much. Phil in 8th. He might struggle on fuel. See how far he gets. So 1.5 minutes. He might actually. We'll see. We'll see. He might not get round to do another lap. So the way it works, we're on timed races here. So 50 minutes. And once that 50 minutes is gone, you don't get to the next lap. So if you cross the line after the 50-minute mark, your race is done. Everyone who got there ahead of you can go around and do another lap. Which could be a curse or it could be a blessing depending on your fuel level. For me, I've just got enough, but I do need to save. So you can see I'm 7 tenths down from my fastest lap there, and that's because I'm having to like lift and coast and short shift and all that sort of wonderful stuff. James isn't having to do any of that. He's got tons of fuel in that car, plenty. Even though he complained his pit crew at the time were too busy drinking 4X. They've obviously put enough juice in his car to get him through to the end of the race, whereas my pit crew didn't seem to get the calculations quite right. And, having to say, mind you, it could have been the fact that I was pushing it for a couple of laps before that, putting in 2.12s rather than 2.13s like I should have been doing. Right then, so Surfer's going to get another lap out of this. Terence will get another lap out of this as well. Will Phil? He'll be the first to finish. He will. Phil finishes in 8th place. Ice Chand is going to finish in 9th place. Marshall's going to finish in 10th. I believe it was his debut time using a brand new gearbox in that Toyota. He stays ahead of Infinity Decals in the Porsche as well. Infinity Decals finishing 11th, and then Sea Trickle is going to bring his Toyota home in 12th place with a little bit of damage on that car. Meanwhile, the story of the day, all about Mult 36. Absolutely dominant performance here at Mount Panorama today. Has 91, so it's a VW1-2 as it shapes up. I'm not too far behind them, but there's not a lot I can do against those VWs. James Harben 4th, increasingly closing the gap to me as well. I didn't even know if that was a word, but bringing the gap to me down bit by bit. Fat Pickles 5th, with Surfer in 6th and Terence in 7th place. But let's go and pay plaudits to the man that is Mutt 36. Special livery for today. Flashing his lights to the adoring fans here at in New South Wales, Australia. And that's no doubt a welcome boost for the VW outfit, bringing home a 1-2. Just a couple more corners to go for these guys. Mutt 36 rounds whole corner for the last time. There he goes. Mutt 36 takes the win at Mount Panorama. Round 7 of the Infinity Decals GT Manufacturers Series. Has 91 takes second. I grabbed the last step of the podium in third with just enough fuel. James Harben takes 4th. Fat Pickles Bro has 5th place all wrapped up. Just gets rid of that penalty. And Surf Rev takes 6th with Terence in 7th. Let's take a quick peek at the race results then. VW1-2 also grabbing fastest lap and pole position along the way. So that will undoubtedly change the landscape of the drivers and manufacturer standings a little bit. So let's jump and have a look at where the drivers line up then. So taking lead of the championship by 4 points is myself ahead of Fat Pickles Bro. Mutt moves up 2 spots as well ahead of Infinity Decals and Terence. And Has 91 also leapfrogs Surfer Ev. With regards to manufacturer standings then, nice and close here as well, with Mercedes and Porsche pretty much tied for P1. VW now edging ahead of Dodge, and Aston Martin picking up good points as well. That's it for this week. Final round at Sardegna next week. Tune in for that.